Hello class, this is 3.1 Geography of the Fertile Crescent, and I'm going to go through this section and talk about some of the key important points. So the two main ideas for this section are the rivers of Southwest Asia supported the growth of civilization, and specifically those two rivers are the Tigris River and the Euphrates River. And the second main idea is new farming techniques led to the growth of cities. Specific tools and using canals and that sort of thing would have gone with that main idea. This is the background for this section. So it says that in several parts of the world, bands of hunter-gatherers began to settle down in farming settlements. They domesticated plants and animals. Gradually, their cultures became more complex. Most early civilizations grew up along rivers where people learned to work together to control floods. So this picture shows hunter-gatherers and then settled farmers. There's a transition from hunting and gathering to farming in one place. Domesticating animals, right, which means changing plants and animals in ways that are useful to us. And all of this just made society and culture more complex. All right, the first section, the first main idea, blue title, is rivers support growth of civilizations. So here we have a few pictures of two of the rivers in the Middle East, specifically the Tigris River and the Euphrates River. And Mesopotamia, this civilization that we're studying first, literally means between two rivers in Greek. So the two rivers that it is referring to are the Tigris River and the Euphrates River, which we have here. Here is a map of Mesopotamia at the time. So one of the terms that is on your vocabulary list this week is the Fertile Crescent. So the green area here is what we call the Fertile Crescent. It gets its name from the shape. It's sort of a crescent shape. And it is a pretty dry area, but water would flow from northern Mesopotamia, the mountains of Turkey, and the plateaus of the area, into southern Mesopotamia, the lower areas, and that's how they would get their water for farming. Hunter-gatherers settled in that area of Mesopotamia about 12,000 years ago, and then permanent settlements popped up around 7,000 BC, which would be about 9,000 years ago. So it took about 3,000 years for the hunter-gatherers to settle down and create permanent towns, permanent settlements. In terms of food and what they ate, they grew grains like wheat and barley, which we have a picture of here on the bottom, and they would have been able to make porridges and sort of like oatmeal type stuff and make breads from it. And they caught fish, would be a key in their diet, right, from the rivers, and birds to eat, birds that would live around the rivers, and raising livestock, specifically three of the types of animals that they would have domesticated in this area would be cattle, goats, and sheep, which they would have used for obviously meat, but also milk. They would have used the cattle for helping them on the farms, right, pulling plows and stuff, that sort of thing. All right, the next section is on farming and cities. So again, as I just mentioned, it would rain in the higher areas of Asia Minor, which today is modern-day Turkey. And depending on that rainfall, the rivers would either dry up if there was not so much rain, or if there was a lot of rain and storming, it might flood. And if it flooded, the Mesopotamians needed to learn how to control the river's flow. And that's where canals and irrigation, creating dams, came in. Essentially, with a canal, it's just from a river, they would dig little mini rivers so the water would flow from the big river into the smaller canals and divert the water. They would use irrigation to provide water to their crops, like in this picture on the left. Also providing water to their livestock, like this picture on the bottom. And they would build up the banks on the rivers to prevent flooding. So this picture here on the top right, obviously in Mesopotamia, this is thousands of years ago, so they didn't have tractors like this, but they would have built up their banks in a similar way that you can see here so that the water couldn't go over the banks, it would contain the water. Irrigation led to a surplus of food, right? Surplus meaning it's more than is needed, which allowed some people to do other jobs, such as crafting. Religious leaders could focus on spiritual things. Government workers could focus on the government and organizing people. So this picture here of the fruit, that just kind of shows a surplus. And then the pictures on the right are showing specialization, division of labor. Division of labor is like different people focusing on different things, right? If not everyone needs to farm, right? If only some people need to farm, then everyone else can do other things. Like this picture shows, you've got engineers, you've got doctors, you've got police, you've got chefs. So people could do different jobs. Large projects like constructing buildings required better organization, right? To make something like this here on the bottom, called a ziggurat, would require very organized planning, right? So that sort of thing led to government. They wanted to build these sorts of things. They needed to be more organized, and so that's how government popped up. This top picture is not from ancient Mesopotamia. It's a modern day ziggurat. I don't know where this is, but it might be Sacramento, if I had to guess. But that's the style of ziggurat. And the last slide here on farming in cities has to do with trading. So in the cities, trading emerged, right? People started to trade their goods and their services. It was just more efficient. So here's a picture of a woman saying, "Pleasure doing business with you," and the man says back, "As always, sister." She's trading, looks like a goat, for a basket of produce, fruits and vegetables. So that's the last slide. The summary for this section is that the valleys of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers were the site of the world's first civilization. All right, thanks.